Okay, we're recording. How did you find me?
Well, I had your book when it first came out, like in 2011,
Yeah.
and I had done the protocol in like 2008. And when I read it, I think, pregnant with my son, and I was like, oh my gosh, this makes total sense, because I, saw a lot of things about that hit home for me that, you wrote about. So then just recently, last week, I'd never seen any of your YouTube videos until last week, because unfortunately I started the protocol about 10 days ago. And
Okay.
I was watching your videos, and I was like blown away, because I hadn't watched any of your videos. So
got it. So and there's a lot, and there's you'll notice that they're different, because over the years I've gotten better at honing in on the issues. I've adapted. So over the course of 7 years since publishing Weight Loss Apocalypse, I've really evolved this process.
Absolutely, and I saw that, and I was just so done, with the whole thing, and so it was, I was like, oh, I wish I hadn't started the protocol, because,
I get it too, but you're already on it, and then you're like, shit, I already loaded. I don't want to load again. God.
So then it was like 3 days after I tried to watch as many videos as I could, and so there was a lot. And at first I was like, oh, I can't accept that I'm going to be fat for the rest of my life,
Well, that's crazy.
And then I, kind of slept on it, and then I watched another video that you were with saying, talking about taking a pill and being fat. And then something softened in me, and then I totally got it, and then I haven't been weighing myself since, and also not thinking of it as a diet, so it's been a totally different experience. And
awesome. Okay, so you're still on the HCG
Protocol.
Okay.
What to do. I was like, should I go off of it? So yeah.
Well, you know what? I can help you get an idea of what you should do, but let's talk about where you're at. Because the protocol to me is something that if you're using it to compensate for some emotional baggage you have with your weight, you're going to gain it all back anyways.
Absolutely.
Because that projects into how you diet, that restriction in food, and then it blows up in your face because the animal in you wants to feel safe with food. So you'll go through a cycle. So I don't see any risk either way at this point because of that. It's like, if you're not resolved, if you haven't looked at what you're afraid of, if you haven't opened your mind to what your life would be like, can you handle it? It's like getting divorced. Looking at, I was just on another session earlier today, and I used the parallel of if you're not willing to find out that your husband's cheating, and that's what this is like. Are you willing to look and find out if your husband's cheating? Because if he is, what you going to do? And that's what and it's like, in her case, she was like, nope, I can't look at it. I'd rather continue to work on this marriage, in terms of weight loss. I can't look at what my life would be like. I can't do it. That's impossible.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Anyway, and gosh, you've had a week. There's a lot of hours of YouTube sessions.
I know, there's so much more, but it was...
Are you on that Patreon account, or are you just doing what's available on YouTube right now?
I was just looking at what's available.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot, and it was the second day, and that's when I think on Friday night, I was like, I'm gonna have to, this is, it was kind of like I was praying for something, because I was feeling frustrated on the protocol, and then all of a sudden I feel completely different for now, but I don't know if I'm delusional in thinking that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the thing is, you just have, you got it, and that's the hardest part on the protocol, is you're kind of enabled, and that's what I found. When I wrote Weight Loss Apocalypse, what I was presenting was obviously the ideal situation. And now it's like, well, that's great and all, but it's really only relevant for people who don't have baggage with their weight. They have an easy time listening to hunger. They can trust their hunger when they transition off, because they're okay gaining weight back, so they're willing to allow the body to regulate everything. When you have that emotional, neediness and that survival, attachment to being thinner, you're not going to give the body lenience. You kidding me? You're going to keep your eyeball on that weight and you're going to micromanage your food, which means you're about to go back into a very sensitive, it's like you're walking on eggshells around overeating and binging again.
Absolutely.
Because your restrictions become stricter the more fearful you get to regain weight after the protocol. So how many protocols have you done? How many rounds since 2008?
Yeah, 2008 I did 3 rounds, and then
I'm assuming you had awesome success.
Yes, I
like
did.
most people do in the beginning.
Yes,
You realize
it was a total high, and it was actually right before I got married, so I had the wedding dress and all that. And then I got to my honeymoon, I ate everything that wasn't nailed down.
Of course, you get to reward yourself. It's your yeah.
That is what I had not healed myself. Like I knew it wasn't until I got right inside myself. I knew that it was just something I was using as abuse.
Yeah. Well, but you don't see it because it's such an accepted way of being in our culture. It's like dieting doesn't everybody need to diet because doesn't everybody need to be thinner? This concept, have you watched any of the videos where I talk about thin supremacy?
Yes. Yeah. And I'm totally at home too.
Like, holy shit, I never thought of it like that. It is thin supremacy. Holy crap, that's disgusting. No one ever questions it. They just think that's the way it should be. And then all of a sudden you're going, well, how much have I not only shamed myself, but shamed others and just bought into it without questioning it? But, again, you're naive. We're raised in it. How many people in the South who are raised and were raised in the early 1900s in racism questioned racism? They didn't know it exists. That doesn't mean they're bad people. That's just naively accepting what's going on, as and they don't see it's racist until their grandchildren are like, I don't want to believe that anymore. I don't want to believe that. I want to marry someone who's of a different color of me, and then all of a sudden people are forced to open their minds. Well, how many generations of thin supremacy are we going to pass down to the next generation, all the while we all suffer from eating disorders? And so these issues with food, that's the other thing. Because it's positioned to never question the idea of thin supremacy, you're the one at fault. It's like religion. Don't question the religious ideology. Don't question the standards of purity and perfectionism. Question your inability to be perfect. You just suck. You can't handle it. Never mind that it goes against nature. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so most people don't question the dieting either. Shouldn't I be, something as radical as the HCG Protocol, that's radical. Yeah. As long as it gets you what you want, you can handle it, right? Yeah. Oh, my Lord, even though it was intended to be for people who were morbidly obese, who had what Dr. Simeons believed was a metabolic disease. When you look at the United States, first world environments that are using it, it's mostly people who are not in that category. Yeah. Anyways, so tell me, how old are you?
I'm 45.
And would you mind if I ask your weight?
Oh, no, it's okay. I'm about 220, and I'm 5'8".
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's like, are you really a good candidate for the HCG protocol? Do you really have, this is where, when we look at the protocol from a medical standpoint, who would be a good candidate for it? How do you determine that? Just because someone has an emotional hatred for weight, does it really mean that they're good candidates? And how much of their excess body fat or the extra body fat, you can say, that has been promoted based on what they've been doing. How much of what they're doing is what the problem is. It's not the body fat that's the problem so much as it is the way that they're being around food and their weight that is the issue. Looking at it from a much broader perspective. This is all I'm writing about in the next edition.
Your next book.
Yeah. specific to HCG, because I'm going to do another weight loss apocalypse edition in addition to the original one. I don't want to change the original one. I just need to that I don't think that needs changing. It does serve a purpose. I just have evolved. So here's the next variation of it, if you want to call it that. So what were you looking to accomplish in this conversation?
Well, I mean, obviously it's been a lifelong, with my weight, and it, it's just been taken over my whole life,
Oh, that sucks. My God. Let's kind of try to get an idea of let's define that. When did you start feeling bad about your weight?
Sorry.
It's okay. I'm sorry. I know it's horrible. I've been there.
I think a little girl.
So you must have been raised in an environment, either that or you were around friends who were raised in an environment.
No,
I mean, we're the same age. I'm 41, or I'll be 41 here soon. So we're in the same kind of era, the 80s, the 80s and 90s, right? The late 80s and 90s, which was extremely narcissistic. The 80s were the worst, I swear to God.
Yeah, no, it was my family. I mean, my dad was, he's very, like, a controlling.
Was he patriarch? Was he like a patriarch? Yeah. Okay. Got it.
And, both my mom was, she was always dieting. They were on the HCG program in the 70s.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. So you are like OG diet family.
Yeah.
You guys were so ahead of time.
I remember them saying, my parents were talking, you're injecting, like, pregnant woman's urine next year. And I was sitting in the waiting room waiting for them to get their injection. See, listen to me. That is so cool.
They were so in it. They were ahead of time. Oh, yeah. I've had a few. Not a lot, but I've had a few clients say, I did this in the 70s.
So, yeah, my dad was like, put the kid on a diet. And I was in, like, 6th grade. I went to Nutrisystem, and I was bringing the food to school.
Got it, 6th grade. Okay. So you were brought up to think there was something wrong with your body. My body is my enemy. God, can you imagine? Body is my enemy, and I have to fix it. Yeah. I know. Okay, so can you see why this has been taken over? How this can take over? Yeah. Because you're never really given a peaceful relationship. There's no peace. It's always, this has to be fixed, this has to be fixed. So you've been living in survival mode your whole life. Yeah. So what other symptoms do you have?
You mean, like, physically? Well, I have high cholesterol.
Okay, yes.
Both my pregnancies, I had gestational diabetes.
Okay.
I'm borderline, like, I can never get my fasting blood sugar to be below, like, 110.
Okay, well, that's survival mode.
Yeah, I think I'm bored, so that's both my parents have, my mom's passed, she had vascular dementia, because she had a lot of heart problems, she had a, triple bypass, and my dad is still living, but he has diabetes.
Got it. Type 2.
Type 2, yeah.
See, this is where they need to start asking more questions about survival and fear, and how much fear do you live in, and how much anxiety do you have, and how much of your life has been trying to fix, hide, because what that does naturally is it puts your body into fight or flight mode. And the first thing that happens is your liver breaks down energy and puts it into your bloodstream. So you're probably just sitting at rest with high blood sugar just because you have anxiety all the time. And that's called emotional diabetes. That's what that is.
Yeah.
I've had it when I moved 5 times in 5 years. Yeah. And it went away because I knew what it was. It's just moving. Yeah. That alone, created more diabetes. They studied medical students. They had sugar in their blood significantly higher after an exam. Just out of stress. So that's normal and natural, but over a chronic period of time, it can cause a lot of organ fatigue, right? Yeah. Anyway, so those things have to be addressed, right? So we can put you on the HCG protocol, make you thinner, but what's that going to do?
Yeah.
Nothing. It just promotes actually worse issues with food.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you lose the weight and you believe that makes you more superior or more safe, what happens to your relationship with food?
It's
strict.
Same.
Well, it becomes very strict.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't want to lose your safety. So your relationship with food as a byproduct becomes very distorted. Fear becomes higher around food. Anxiety, you become paranoid around food because you need to keep your weight down. And that's what will happen on this round. And then how does that actually turn out? And you're going to end up feeling like you failed the moment you want to eat something off the list of things. You're going to feel, and then once you have failed, now what happens? Well, you might as well get as much of the food in as you can because you've already ruined it. There's where the binge occurs. And then you feel like shit because you couldn't control yourself, you piece of shit.
And then the shame.
Yeah, and then there's either a bulimic purge or you go into a diet purge, which is I'm going to restrict even more intense tomorrow. I'm going to, on the terms of the protocol, I'm going to eliminate the crackers and the fruit. Okay, so now I'm actually literally starving myself. Okay, anyway, so what do you think the resolution is for you? What do you want? I know you're
I think I want to work with you long term because I think I have a lot of things I need to work out. I would like your insight on what to do right now because, like you said, I'm on the protocol. I don't know what to do. I decided not to jump off it because I thought I
there might be
a crazy place right now.
You could.
I spoke to you.
You could. Okay.
So I'm just kind of in a bit of a quandary.
Okay. I'm just trying to get my bearings right now around what I would, if you're ready to commit to like getting shit done, what is the best strategy at this point? And I think there's a variety of strategies. So you could stay on this. Let me tell you the benefits of staying on it right now. The benefit is that you will be losing weight. So what that is going to do is it's going to actually feed the dragon. You're getting high. You're going to get high. And that will show up as a fear of gaining, and you will have a relapse in terms of binging in the end. The benefit of that is you're going to learn so much. So let me see if I can explain this a little bit more in terms of like education-wise. I'm going to go into the steps. So do you have a pen and paper?
Yeah.
Okay. So just these are bullet points. I don't want to put them in numbers because they don't have to happen in this order. Okay, so bullet point number 1. The recovery process requires that you let go of the idea that you'll be thinner than you are. So you have to surrender and say goodbye permanently. It is a permanence. Okay, that's a key word on that. Permanently let go that you will ever be thinner than you are. It's like saying goodbye to that persona, to that idea. Doesn't that sound good?
It does.
I know you're in a bad spot then. If that just sounded like, thank
good.
the Lord above.
No, I had it when you had this session with the pill, and I thought about it. I had been resisting it for 2 nights, and then something happened, and
You
I was
faced
like,
it.
I know, it's not, this is like a jail cell for 40 years or whatever.
Yeah, wouldn't you like to just move on with your life?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what the first point is. For many people, it feels like death. Like, if that happens, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where I was, right? But you might come to that point. So right now, because you're in such horrible suffering in a dark pit of hell, it is hell. You're in purgatory.
Yeah.
Go look up Dante's Inferno. Just look at those pictures. You're close to the bottom. I'm not kidding. I've been there. The fact that you were like, oh my God, that's like winning a lottery. You're at the bottom. You're really close. Oh man, I feel for you. And then, okay, so the second point is the first and the second point kind of happen in tandem, kind of at the same time. You have to accept your current body and its ailments and people's perception of it. Right? It's everything. It's not just your size and weight. It's all these beliefs you have about it. I'm a failure. I'm a loser. No one's going to love me. I'm going to be single the rest of my life. I'm never going to have sex again. No one's going to be sexually attracted. I mean, everything has to be accepted with your current body. My knees are going to hurt. I'm going to have arthritis. Whatever those are. You have to ask yourself, can I accept this now? Because if I can accept this weight as I am currently, then that number 1, that first point is achieved. Yeah. What is it worth? What are you willing? What's the cost to get rid of that thinner ideal you've been held hostage to, and a miserable slave to. What is it worth? What are you willing to pay? Can you accept your current body? Some people can't do it. What they do, though, is they loosen the standard. So they say, well, I don't have to lose 40 pounds. I just need to lose 20 pounds. That's a great improvement right there. Still going to have binging problems. Still going to have self-worth problems. Still going to have issues. But at least it won't be so satanic. It'll be kind of satanic. Just kind of. Okay? That's improvement to me. Right? So there's the first and second point. Third point. You have to accept the potential permanently that you could gain weight. You could be fatter than you are. And with that comes the stigma, people thinking you're a pain in the ass, that you suck, you couldn't handle it, you're a loser. Right? All the stigma attached to that does exist in our thin supremacist world. You're inferior, you couldn't handle it, you're a failure, you suck, you're a piece of shit, you're worth nothing, you're worthless. You got to accept that too.
Well, I've been heavier, so.
Well, so that means you're going to have to regain that weight. That means you really suck, right? Just see how that, because that's how the mindset of that is, which is if you lose weight and you can't keep it, you're worse off. You might as well have stayed that fat. I know, isn't that so weird? But I know. It's so clear when you're when you're recovered, this is going to be like, wow. When you're in it, it's not clear at all. It just is what it is. Of course you feel worse about yourself because you couldn't keep it. You couldn't handle it. Now you're a bigger piece of shit when you regain the weight. You might as well have just never tried. And some people do that. They stay in paralysis. If I lose weight, then I have to keep it, and I don't want the pressure. So they do. They try to maintain their body as it is with their overeating. And if they lose weight, it triggers a binge. That's the binge eating side, right? So point one, you have to basically commit suicide to your thinnerness. Anything thinner than you are. Anything thinner. It doesn't even matter if it's 10 pounds, 5 pounds, 2 pounds, 5, 15, doesn't matter. Commit suicide to it. It will never exist. You will never achieve it. It is gone from your life permanently. Number two, that means you have to be okay with where you're at. Doesn't mean you have to love it and play narcissism with it and make yourself feel superior. No, we're just saying accept it. Be here nor there around it. It is what it is.
Yeah, okay, because every time someone says love your body right now, I mean, I find that, you're saying just be okay with it.
Yeah, I'm just saying accept it. Is it really that bad? Can you be neutral about it? Can you be here nor there about it? It's kind of like, do I paint my nails or do I not paint my nails? Because ultimately, if you're not okay with it, guess what you get to keep on doing? You got it. The third point is I have to allow the body to do what it's going to do. If I'm done dieting and holding myself hostage to this cage of isolation from food, that means my body is going to regulate itself. Which means, what if your natural state of being is a lot bigger than you are? If you surrender all diets and all restrictions and all food religions and morality and narcissistic food bullshit, right? And you eat relative to the body's rhythms of hunger, and you give yourself the grace of all food that is on this planet. You live at the table of abundance, which has got chicken nuggets, french fries, kale. I mean, it's got everything on it, right? You might get bigger without regulation. So what if the body's regulation puts you at 230? Well, when you're at 230, guess what? It requires no work on your part, no restriction, and no excessive binging, because you're not going to be restricted. Right? That means you're free. The fourth point, okay? You have to be indifferent if the body loses weight. It has to be meaningless to you. You have to detach symbolism from it. You have to not want the symbolism. You have to not want the symbol of success. You have to surrender. You put it in a box. I don't want the success attached to that. I don't want people's approval attached to that. I don't want people to think I'm a better person attached to that. I don't want to use any form of shift of my body positively towards thin supremacy or any belief system that is moral or religious around body image. I don't want it. So that doesn't mean you refuse to go for a walk or exercise. It just means you don't attach your value to it as a human being.
So you're not doing that to look better.
Correct.
Yeah.
Look better or think that you're a better person.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? So you have to detach value from anything around body image. It's not just thin supremacy. It's this health righteousness. It's the whole it's a very huge belief system out there that is parallel to religion. Okay? Your value as a human, your way to get into heaven is to be the body that this group believes is superior. You have to surrender what that is, and you have to accept the body as it is naturally. God-given body, what is it really? Right? So you have to be okay and indifferent about weight loss and not attach yourself to it in any form. And if your body does lose weight, you have to constantly be okay with regain. So it's not just, I accept I will never be thinner. I accept the body I am. I accept it could gain weight. I accept it could lose weight on its own, and I could regain that weight. And I don't care about all of it. So do you see how that makes you blind to it? Complete blindness to it. It doesn't even matter. There is no relative position around my body fat that has any power, that has any meaning, that is relevant in any way. How does that sound?
Well, that's a little harder than the first one.
Not regaining?
Yeah, I mean, having no indifferent about it at all, I guess.
Well, if it means something, what happens?
Then I'm back where
you got it.
Start.
Because it means something, so you
No,
have to
I'm
really
just digesting it. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
that's where you're at. You're at 4. That would be that 4th point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that tells us, like, so you see where you're at in that all those points. Where do we start you off? So right now, so if you're saying regain would be rough, well, that means you believe in the thinner supremacy. You're attaching superiority to it, and you want that superiority. You want it.
I feel like I don't know if I could be indifferent to losing weight, I guess.
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, and that's because you believe it is beneficial.
Yeah.
And it's not just physical, because you could say, of course, but that's relative too, because if there was an apocalypse, your body right now is a benefit. You know, it's really beneficial to what? But what you're talking about is not necessarily physical. Yeah. Not to say that, your thighs don't rub together and you don't have the high, but the diabetes to me, the pre-diabetes is more about stress than it is your weight.
Okay, yeah.
So there's beliefs in that, right? Because you could be thinner than you are and diabetic because of stress.
Yeah, absolutely. So
it doesn't matter.
And this is causing stress.
Yeah, it is. In and of itself. That's why it's like, what's really causing the diabetes is your thin supremacy.
Yeah.
That puts food as a harm.
Yeah.
Food is it's as fundamental to your psychology. Yeah. Have you ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. Have you watched any of the videos where I talk about that?
No, I haven't seen that.
So Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So the foundation of our psychological wiring, our behavior, like what drives human behavior. Well, what Maslow studied is the fundamentals of our behavior. The number one fixation, he found that our mind and our behavior is fixated on securing our life needs first. Like it's a priority. That's why he calls it a hierarchy. Your mind is wired at the foundation of behavior to secure food, water first. Food, water, air. Period. That is because that's your personal individual life. Your body you will die without it, right? You don't need shelter as much. You do need shelter. That's why it's the second hierarchy of need. But you need food more than you need shelter, right? So the second hierarchy is environmental safety. Shelter, clothes, healthcare. How it translates into today would be healthcare, a house, proper clothing, air conditioning, shit like that. Okay? First world stuff. So the third hierarchy of need is really where your issues are stemming from. Because you don't have issues with food, do you? Truthfully. No. But clearly, psychologically, you do, but there's a reason why. Well, it's because your third hierarchy of need, which is the need we all have to feel that we are lovable, because this translates into I am in a tribe, in a pack. I'm loved by my family. I have a purpose. I have meaning. You know, I'm wanted, and I have something that makes me wantable. You do not have that feeling. So what you're doing and what we're wired to do is find a way to get that feeling. And you're not looking inside of yourself for that. You're looking outside of yourself for that. I need to be a part of that religion, and I will be loved by my family. I need to be thin, and then I'll be loved by my mom and dad. That's not internal. That's external. And it's so we can look at body image and say, well, that's kind of hard, because if you identify by the body is who you are. Therefore, it's like a sense that it's me that I'm improving, when in reality it's not. It's the body that you're improving, but it's in relation to a belief system that tells you what type of body you should have, right? So in China, they foot-bound for centuries. Can you see where a girl would feel bad about her feet size? And where that she would say, but no, I like smaller feet. Well, why? Because it symbolizes your lovability as a pack animal. And you want to be loved. Therefore, your feet are a symbol of you in your lovability. But is that internal lovability, or is that external lovability? It's external. Yeah. So you're not looking at your core, your heart, your soul. You're looking at the body. So you identify as the body. That's the big issue there. Right? And your body is your biggest threat. So the only way for you to secure that third hierarchy of need, because you're not doing it internally, you're going outside of yourself, and you're using thin supremacy to do it, thinner ideology. What happens to how you relate to food?
Well, then it's like your enemy.
Yeah, and how's that working out for your primal needs?
It's not.
Yeah, your third hierarchy of need, which is a lesser need, is threatening the first hierarchy of need. And you're basically chasing your tail. You'll never escape.
No.
Because the first one is a bigger priority. That's freaking hundreds of thousands of years of evolution you're going to lose to.
Yeah.
Thin supremacy is not that old. It's like 100 years maybe?
Yeah.
Which one's going to win? Yeah, you see what I mean? Yeah. The first animal one, your brain is wired to prioritize those fundamental survival needs over your pack needs.
Yeah.
If you prioritize the pack need over that fundamental need, you're going to have mental illness.
Yeah, that makes sense now that you're saying this.
Yeah, they see this commonly in Stockholm Syndrome, right, where people are held hostage, or in cults, where the cult is more important than fundamental human needs. So you prioritize, like they will use in typical cults or in a Stockholm Syndrome where someone's held hostage, they will manipulate food because it is a primal need, and you have to do what we say, then we'll feed you. So do you see how they take those two and make them compete? Yeah. And that's one of the symptoms of Stockholm Syndrome. Yeah, you see it clearly now, the diet industry, then supremacy, and why you have this syndrome.
Yeah.
Why that would make sense, why you feel like a battered wife, and you're the one holding yourself hostage to it.
Yeah.
And what are you married to? Well, the thin ideology that says you have to restrict your food. Yeah. I have to restrict food to make a good marriage. Yeah. To be a worthy person. You know? Yeah. But what if, given the choice, because you believed it naively, you just wanted your parents to love you, and you know at this point your parents love you unconditionally, right? Even if they aren't aware. Yeah. Let's just say they are assholes. They really do love you unconditionally. They just have lost their shit. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, I see it.
Yeah. So you have to really question, how are you going to get out of this syndrome if you're not willing to let go of thin supremacy? Yeah. You know, you can't get out of it if you hold on to it. I mean, you can leave the church, but if you hold yourself to the standards, have you really left? No. Because you're still holding yourself to those standards.
Yeah. I mean, I feel this last thing you said with the hierarchy of needs, I feel letting go now.
Well, yeah. So what happens if you let go? Again, go back to the question, if you never, ever again have to be thinner, ever, and you're allowed. So if I came to you and said, hey, I'm a genie. You have the choice right now. You've done a great job. You served some shitty-ass karma for some past life where you shamed someone, okay, for having a leg that was limp. Who knows? You just served all that karma. And you're done. You don't have to do it anymore. The body's going to be what it is. And you don't have to do anything about it anymore. You're free now. You served your shitty karma.
Yeah.
Good job. Now you get to live in this life with this body, and it's going to be whatever it is. You don't need to worry about it anymore. That's not your purpose. That's not what you're supposed to dedicate your life to anymore. It's not a big deal. You're going to be fat the rest of your life. Who cares? You don't need to worry about it. It's not your role. That wasn't your purpose. You are here to serve a different purpose. How would that feel?
I could be okay with that.
No. Or you can not be okay, and you can keep on doing what you're doing if you really like it. I mean, seriously.
No, I can't. I mean, I'm at the bottom of the fight, so no.
Well, do you really want to? I mean, do you really want to? Do you really want to still achieve thinness? I mean, go there. Do you really want that? Because you can. You don't have to do it anymore. But if you really want thinness, you can keep on doing what you're doing. But you can leave it anytime.
No, I don't.
So what if you leave and you start to be thin? You gonna care?
No.
See how different that feels now?
Yeah.
Like, why would you do that? Why would you give a flying shit?
Yeah.
It's kind of like someone leaving foot binding cult. Oh my God, what if my feet look smaller one day? Oh my God, really? You really want to think about your feet? You really want to think about how small your feet are? Is that what you want to dedicate your conscious awareness to? Is that your purpose? No, wouldn't you rather just accept that you have big feet forever? Whether they're small or not, why would you give a shit?
Yeah, I get on with something.
You see how silly it sounds now? Like, well, why would I care? I don't care. That's the goal. Ultimately. So right now, so with that said, you're on the HCG protocol. And you can lose some weight, but if you're attaching to any of it, if you hope in the back of your mind, even for a second, just for even 1% hope, I hope I don't gain it back, what's going to happen?
It's the same pattern. I'm in a binge.
Yeah, it's not indifferent. It actually does matter. That 1% makes it matter. So you have to keep your eye on it. You have to. How can you not? You have to kind of hope that, even just hope that you'll be thinner keeps you captive to it, right? Because in that hope is the belief that thinner is better. So how do we get you there? Well, what we've got to be able to do is get you to see that it is an illusion. Like thinner people, it's just a physical condition. It's just a physicality. It's like people who, let's just say, do tons of makeup and they do all the contouring. Yeah. If they feel better with contouring, great, good for them. But why would they feel less than without it?
Yeah.
Just think about that for a second.
Yeah.
It's an illusion. You got it. It's like the idea of what it does for them. So they've attached symbolism to it. Or they believe that concept of beauty, which is it's not their concept. Clearly they're being told what beauty is. That's why it's so predictable right now. It's lip injections, it's fake eyelashes, it's not even a personal concept of what beauty is. It's a programmed concept. Here, let's put this in our hard drive so we all look the same.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like the picture in your mind about what your body should look like is your concept either. Yeah. It's a socially programmed concept, and your poor parents were programmed. Yeah. And they loved you, and they wanted you to fit in. They went to the Church of Thin Supremacy, and they wanted you to be thin too. Yeah. And they probably said, you got her genetics, and we need to make sure. Yeah. Because they want you to be loved by some other patriarch type male. Yeah. Who only wants thin women that do what he says. Yeah. Straight from 1948. Greatest generation. So with that said, the benefit of you being on the protocol is that it's going to put you in fire. You're on fire. You're on fire as we speak. But could you continue to follow the very low-calorie protocol and be super indifferent around what happens at the end of this? There's two parts to it, because there's the part of you that has been deprived. There is the part of you that has been, how many years of your life have you actually, in your mind, held yourself to a food deprivation? Even if you haven't been actively depriving yourself, you believed you should be depriving. How many years have you felt, I should not be eating?
Well, that's since like I was probably 10.
Yeah, so 35 years.
Or more.
Yeah, like eating is bad. I shouldn't be eating. Eating is bad. Eating is bad. Food is bad. Okay, so there's that relationship that's all fucked up.
Yeah.
That's separate, right? That's the first hierarchy of need.
Yeah.
Then there's the hierarchy of need at the third spot, which is the source of the problem, because that's the one that's threatening that first one. You wouldn't feel food was bad if you didn't believe that thinner people make you special. Thinner people, being thinner makes you safe. So there's two parts that we need to focus in on. The first one has to be targeted first. Then the second one can heal, right? Because until you are free from the bondage of having to be thinner, how can you heal your issues with food as an animal and those beliefs that you've held on to? There is no straight answer here I'm going to give you.
Yes.
You're the one, it's a choice you have to make. So so the benefit of staying on it is it's going to force you to be okay gaining weight, because you're going to gain weight. So the more you lose right now, the more you're going to face it. You will gain weight. So the test is you're going straight in the fire. It's like, bam, right to it. The downside is that your likelihood of binging is really high, because we're taking away the reason why you're on this protocol. And so what that does is it forces you to look at your relationship with food as a consequence of having been deprived for 35 years. Obviously, it's not been depriving the whole time. It's just a concept of deprivation. You've held on to. Some people are like, Robin, I've never dieted. Well, you believe you should be dieting. So whether you're dieting or not doesn't matter. You believe you should be restricting.
Yeah.
That's ultimately why people overeat anyways.
Absolutely. Well, I've been on, spent all the time dieting those, or just planning a diet or getting off.
Okay. How many rounds total have you done of the HCG protocol since 2008? You did 3 then. How many rounds?
3 and then 2, and after I came back from my honeymoon correcting,
So
I did a couple of it, and then I got pregnant with my son and then my daughter, so I didn't, and then I dreamed about doing it, but
you were waiting.
I was too deprived. Like, I felt like I couldn't deal with it.
Yeah, because it's intense once you put your emotions on it. If there was no emotional attachment, it would be easy, kind of like your first round. Because you're.
I just dieted, I've been trying to get on keto and all this shit and all that stuff,
I love that you're laughing about it, but you're just brainwashed, dearie. You're just a soldier. That's the new thing. I was just saying the last round, it's like, basically they've taken Atkins and given it a new name. Made it all sciencey. It's keto. I'm keto. Why don't you just say Atkins? But it's cool to say keto because it's brand new and it's kind of special and it's like a religion.
Oh, yeah. It's a total religion. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, my God. Yeah.
And you know what? To be honest with you, if I were to be honest around the science of this, and I say this in all open-mindedness because I could be wrong, but when someone is under survival mode, they should be on keto because you're high blood sugar anyways.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that half of the country who are thin supremacists should need to be on keto because they're freaking high blood sugar just sitting around food. The food is here. It's like the bear.
Yeah.
You should only be eating a piece of bacon.
Yeah. Or 10.
Right? You got to match your survival mode, people. They should call it keto survival mode.
Yeah, sure.
It would make sense.
Yeah, it's a keto cult, for sure.
Yeah, but it's a cult that's needed because of all you people having all this fear.
Yeah.
Again, so that's why I'm like, well, I'm not going to bash it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
No one's looking at the thin supremacy, though.
This is true. Yeah. I mean,
right? Well, doesn't everybody want to be healthy and center? Well, I guess so, but isn't the body over millennia evolved to better manage itself? Do I need to fixate my entire awareness on making sure the body's working right? Is that what my purpose is? Make sure your body's healthy. Do everything you can. I'd rather not be healthy and enjoy my life.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
And you know what's amazing is overall, the body I'm in has really managed itself for 41 years. Or, okay, I take that back. It's been 20 years since I recovered. Okay? For 20 years. It has done a pretty good job, I guess. I don't know. I'll never go back to that hellhole, though, in my health. I had quotes around that. That is just, I don't know. Are you healthy? You've done it. You did it all. How'd it work out? I mean, for reals. I mean, 35 years of dedication and zealotry and radicalism, and you'd think right now you'd be in heaven.
Oh, God, no. I've been in my own private hell. No. So,
Is it really your own private hell, or is it pretty much everybody there in your own private hell?
I guess. I mean...
They go from sitting in the front pews to sitting in the back pews. And then I'm going to go back to the front pews in my thinness and be all self-righteous. And then I'm going to go back to the back pews when I suck. And I'm going to hide myself and feel like shit. Okay, well, so the benefit of getting off of the protocol is we're going to face the underlying issues immediately, but it is kind of keeping you hostage. So, because you aren't losing weight. So, how do I say this? Let me get my thoughts together before I just start rambling on it. At some point, you're going to have to face weight loss.
Yeah.
So you're doing it right now. Yeah. So we're jumping into a hard spot. You know, obviously, if I could have talked to you 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about it.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You're just doing it the hardest route. You're good. This is the hardest route right here, right now. Okay. I've had a lot of people reach out to me at this point because they do find me through looking up how do I get through this time. And I mean,
that's exactly what happened.
I know, like I believe the HCG Protocol works. I know it works, but I just can't. I couldn't do it. You were abusing it. It was like a weird thing. You took a break from it. You did the paleo. You did the keto. You did the everything between then and now, and all of it's been all or nothing, all or nothing, all or nothing. And you're a piece of shit. You failure, right? Yeah. And now you're to the point where like, okay, I just got to get my shit together because you gained all this weight back, right? And it's affecting your self-esteem. You're depressed. I'm not going out anymore because I'm so fat and ugly. You know, all that derogatory bullshit that comes from the thin supremacy. Yeah. And so here you are on the protocol. And this is amazing how this is happening. I'm so popular right now. I don't know what it is. People coming out of the woodwork from 7 or 8 years ago. I need to work with that lady. I'm glad you're laughing at my humor.
Timing is everything, because I wouldn't have been ready to hear this, like, 5 years ago. You know, so
of course not. Of course not. 5 years ago, I was that bitch on YouTube. Why the fuck are you eating and you're not hungry? What's wrong with you? Oh my God, I'm good laughing at it too. But underneath it all, I have so much compassion for you. This is miserable. I mean, this is really it's a horrible way to live, but you don't know anything different. And the easy thing for you to do is hate your weight and try to diet. That's easy.
Yeah,
so
I know. It's the only thing I know.
You got it. And so what I'm telling you to do is so counterintuitive to that. It is so like, it's like telling someone who's been a religious zealot to give up religion and be independent. Yeah. You know, make your own mind up. Yeah. What? Don't I need someone to tell me what to do? No. Well, are you saying you're inherently a murderer? Maybe I might be. I need someone to tell me not to steal and rape. Well, you never know. So the question is, can you live your life as a fat person? Okay, because that's the opposite of what you want. That's why I go there. And I go there with the stigma, you piece of shit. You're such a loser. You need to go there because that's the belief system out there. Can you be perceived that way by people who can't see beyond that? They can't see beyond that.
Yeah, I can because they already do, and I don't care.
Right, because they don't know. They don't know. They have no idea. And they still believe the fantasy, right? That if you just work harder, you can't quit now.
Yeah.
What about your diabetes?
Yeah.
Well, what caused it? How did you get here? Can you continue to do what got you here? When do you wash your hands and walk away? And if you wash your hands and walk away and lose weight, what you going to do? You going to go back into holding it? Yeah. So right now, the most direct route is to stay where you're at. Stay in the protocol. Let your body lose weight. Follow this. Follow the protocol. Get into the fire of losing weight. Face what it means to you. Let it come up. And be aware that you're going to fail everywhere. You have to give yourself the grace of saying, if I fail, if I can't do it, if I start binging on this round, I got to give myself grace. Yeah. Got to give myself grace. And that's the only thing I will tell you. If you choose to stay on this round, you need to accept ahead of time you might fail it. You might not. But whatever it is and whatever it becomes, you cannot criticize yourself. Do not hold yourself to some crazy-ass standard fantasy around the best case scenario how this is going to end. Right. Like the best case scenario is I follow the protocol, I work with Robin, I feel the love, I reach higher states of alignment, and then I lose all this weight, and I've got the best of both worlds. I'm thin, and I'm loving too. Right? Don't do that. Yeah. It's not going to work out like that. It doesn't work that way. That's coming from that part of you in there that needs to go away. It doesn't work that way. It's kind of like saying, I'm going to get back together with my husband who cheated on me 7 times and he was an asshole and he beat me, but he's different and we're going to do it again and he's going to be totally better now. He sent me flowers. He sent me flowers this time, Robin. You should, don't go in there thinking the best case scenario. Go into this thinking worst case scenario. What is the worst case scenario?
Well, that I cheat on the whole round and I gain 45 pounds. Then I,
Okay, so can you, if that's what happens, okay, go there. The worst case scenario is you continue to do what you've been doing. Yeah. And you do gain more weight because that's what's going to happen, right? What do you have to lose?
Oh, nothing.
You got it. So then you just be open-minded and let it occur as it's going to occur. So
I'm not thinking of it as a diet anymore, though.
No. Well,
and I'm not weighing myself.
No, and you got to not care when you notice your body's smaller because you're going to notice. Yeah. You got to say I'm going to gain it back at the end anyways. I mean, because so don't attach to it. It's not my business. And if the body, and whatever the body regains, and you assume it at the beginning, you're going to regain weight. And I'm telling you this as fact. You are going to gain. You've done the protocol so much, it's not going to work the same. Yeah. Body's acclimated to it. Your body's, it's not going to work like you think it is. That first round is never going to happen again. So you let that go right away. You see how that's how is that affecting you? What I just said. What happened? Did it hurt?
No, not really.
Okay, that's good. That's a good sign. Yeah. Okay. So
I'm really at the level, I'm at a point, I think.
Yeah. So then how do you feel then about these restrictions? Because they're pretty radical. I mean, we're making fun of keto, but...
I find that on the protocol, honestly, I sleep better.
Well, of course, because keep in mind, some of that comes from the stress relief from the fact you're losing weight. So keep that in mind. But also, you are going to sleep better. You are, for sure. There's hormones involved with that, too. But most people feel great because they can rely on the protocol to lose weight and they don't have to work hard.
I see. So that's,
psychological.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a combination more than likely. I mean, there's no science. I'm making all this shit up and you're just believing me. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have a different feeling about it since watching your videos, but I don't know,
Yeah. Well, that's, and neither do I, but we're going to align an integrity here. What's your point? If in your heart, your point is to be thinner, to feel better about yourself, that integrity is going to show up at some point. Yeah. Okay. So, and that's fine too. That's fine too. I have to tell you, so many people come to me and they hear what I'm saying and intellectually it makes sense. And they're miserable enough that they're willing to go there, but deep down inside, they want to be thinner. And it comes out at some point, and I know it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You've attached your survival to this. And it's, and that's not easy. What it took for me to recover was a suicide. I had to have the choice to die. And then from there, my life changed. And it was 20 years ago. But I go into what it took for me to be completely indifferent about my size and shape and anybody's compliments or, my gray hair and my aging skin. I don't give a shit. What that took was miraculous. Okay, so what I'm asking you to do is freaking miraculous. But are you willing and ready to do it? Even if it's not what you think it is. So you have to see too that there's no risk and have the courage to face your fear, which is I might be fat forever and there's no hope for change. What does that feel like?
I'm okay with it right now.
Right now. See, that's the key. I'm okay with that right now. And that's okay too. I'll take it because right now.
To be honest, I'm scared that I'm not fully, there's part of me that feels like.
Okay. So let's give you grace right now that's okay. That if there's anything underneath that is not willing, it's going to show up and that's okay. None of us are judging that. Don't repress it. We can just assume it's there. Just assume it's there. And when it shows up, you'll know it too, because you're going to have eating issues.
Okay.
Right? Because one attacks the other and the eating issues go up, right?
Yeah.
The thin supremacy attacks your food consumption goes up. That's the irony of the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Because why would your food consumption go up? Because we're wired to want to have food, especially when it's under threat. Can't get rid of that. So I don't know the benefit of you getting off of this protocol. Okay. It's just because you've only done it for like a week.
Yeah.
And so it's not like, at this point, you're going to need to kind of give yourself a transition off. What that will do is it will allow us to go into the first and second and third points of recovery and get those fixed, at least addressed.
Okay.
And also allow you to relate to food differently too. So it'll allow you immediate experience with the grace that, like, what it's like to have a relationship with food that isn't so hellfire and brimstone,
Yeah.
It's so relaxed and it's so here nor there. Right now you're on this highly restrictive protocol without the pre-work. So it's going to be strained. It's going to be strained. And so, then so there's that,
Okay.
So what feels right to your heart? Like if you were to go into what is going to make you go, oh, thank God, which one is it? Maybe one does that and one doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, sorry.
Okay,
yeah.
It's okay. Because I could say, okay, stay on the protocol. How's that feel?
I feel like staying on it for some reason.
Okay, let's do it.
Because I don't feel stressed about it.
Okay, no,
I usually do, but...
Okay, good. Then let's just do it. I think that there's I don't think there's any wrong or right way to do this right now.
Okay.
If you were like, I'm already binging, I'm freaking cheating, I'd be like, what the fuck are you on this for? Get off.
Yeah, okay.
So stay on it, and if you start to have those symptoms, then we talk about it. This is what I'm here for. It's a process of preparing you. So if you stay on the protocol, my orientation is to prepare you to regain all the weight.
Okay. Prepare to gain all the weight.
You got it. All of it. Everything you're about to lose is going to come back. So there is a strategy here. If we can do that, that's like going straight into recovery. Like we're going straight in. Because if you can lose weight and regain it and not give a shit, what else is there?
No, that's it. I know.
You've already given up the thinnerness. You've already given up the fact you're going to gain weight. And then you give up the fact that you're going to lose it and then regain. You're doing it right now. And so I don't expect perfection. I totally expect you to start binging and cheating and feeling bad about it and start checking your weight. I expect all that. So you don't have to pretend like you're not. So this is the cool part about this process is there's no right or wrong way. There is an end goal. There's an idea we're looking for, and the route to get there is unique to you. There are some things that are very predictable, like those points that I were directing you to, but how do we get those points to actually, to the point where you're like, I don't ever have to be that size again. I never have to fit into those jeans again. Why am I holding on to those jeans? We'll get rid of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That point is number one. That's that first point.
Yeah.
You might have already done that. That's got to feel good.
Yeah.
Okay. Could you accept your weight as it is? So we'll find out. It's a process of discovery and awareness. So it's like, and then points where you're going to feel like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And that's a sign, right? Those are the points that you want to stop and you don't want to do anything. You need to stay there. Like I have many clients feel in the moment, I just can't do this anymore. I'm totally fine at this weight, but tell me what it's going to feel like when you go out in public in a beach in a bathing suit. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. And that's when all the shame comes back in. I'm a piece of shit. People are going to hate me. I'm a loser. Then we address that in the present moment of it. Because normally you'd probably be impulsive at that point.
Yeah.
So our goal is that we diminish the impulsivity in the moment to understand it.
Okay.
Am I confusing you?
No, not at all. No, not at all. And I mean, if right now I'm feeling relaxed on the protocol, but as soon as something comes up where I want to cheat or something, then I know I've gone into.
Well, you feel deprived.
You feel deprived and also thinking that,
Yeah, and that's that relationship with food that I say that has to be addressed. That's the secondary process that does exist and does need to occur. It's like how your relationship with food has become distorted over time because of the chronic sense of deprivation. I shouldn't, I can't. And so what happens is that makes food special, magnified. And it can be very specific circumstances that it becomes special. It's like when I feel my life is too hard, food becomes really important to me. And it's in those moments that, like I have another client suffering from bulimia who her dog had put her dog down, how hard is that? And her grandma died, and in those circumstances, her typical reaction is to go into self-pity, victimization, and then you can see if you feel that way, why you would want to compensate yourself to feel better about it. I deserve these cookies.
Yeah.
Why? The only reason why they would negotiate for food is because those cookies are off limits.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Otherwise, they don't have any.
Correct. Yeah. So that relationship is there. That as that shows up, those are things we have to again. And that relationship always comes down to because you're fat. Yeah. Oh my God, it's so ridiculous, but it is what it is. Okay, so I think if you want to stay on this round, we should, especially if for the first time in 8-9 rounds, you're actually following it.
Yeah.
And you're feeling calm and you're, so we could, in essence, focus on hunger right now. But know this, as soon as you become anxious about your weight, that anxiety or fear that you might regain weight is going to project onto food as a threat. And then the hunger scale is not going to line up.
Okay, yeah.
It doesn't line up because you're too, there's too much anxiety and it's too relaxed.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
It's like going to war with a BB gun.
Yeah.
It's like, it's too easy, too relaxed, too not survival mode.
Okay.
Because when you're around a ticking bomb of food, does it make sense to eat it with hunger? No. That's what I learned. I learned the hunger scale is useless for people who have anxiety about gaining weight. It's useless.
Yeah.
And you have anxiety, which means you can't tell if you're hungry or not anyways.
Yeah.
And your blood sugar's higher. And your gut isn't even digesting the food you're trying to eat. Those are all symptoms of fight or flight.
Yeah.
Poor digestion, high blood sugar.
Yeah.
So what were you expecting? How much weight were you expecting to lose?
Oh, when I was starting.
Yeah.
You mean for
this round?
Oh, like 25.
What are you going to do if you, in the end, follow the protocol and you've only lost 10 pounds? What's your first answer? Like, not the idea.
Then now I don't care.
You really don't? Or is that, so there's two answers. There's the intellect and there's the emotion. So what does the intellect say? I don't care?
Well, my intellect would be like, why would you bother doing it?
Okay, so let me, yeah, that's true. If you don't care. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So you have made some progress already. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, but if I'm looking at it from healing my, hormones and endocrine system, that's why I'm thinking of it differently.
It may or may not.
May or may not. So that also is on the table, that it's not going to do anything for me in that way either.
Yeah, sometimes I describe it like you're getting a kidney transplant. We don't know if it's going to take.
Oh, Robin, I kind of cut out.
Oh, that's because my phone is set down. It's like a kidney transplant, and it may or may not take.
Oh, okay.
So you're going to do this protocol, may or may not do shit.
Okay.
You see how we'll find out. You don't know either until you're way out aiding in reality. So many people. Well, see, that's a different way to look at the protocol.
Yeah.
When you go to HCG Protocol forums and support groups, now it's like day to day, minute to minute.
Yeah.
Are you holding within the 2 pound range? Are you holding within the 2 pound range? Oh my God, that's what Dr. Simeon said. I'm not holding. Oh my God. You should do a steak day.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, dude, let the body calibrate. And we won't know what happened until you're eating like a normal human being. But then the people in the diet industry say you should never eat like a normal human being again. You have to be this way always. You should do keto forever. So did it really work if you have to do keto forever? Is it really working?
No.
Your body's...
You're taking whole food groups out. I mean,
That's not a real reflection of the process. We really won't know how the body manages itself metabolically until you're in reality again. To isolate yourself from reality and put yourself in a state of isolation with a diet is like, I cannot find out what really happened because I refuse to know the truth. Because if I eat like a normal human being and I gain weight, then my metabolism didn't repair. Relative to what you think it disrepaired, right? It's all relative to the idea that thinner people are better, right? Because if you can be a normal human being, and let's just say your weight stabilizes at 220, and at that point, you don't have to diet, you don't have to restrict, it doesn't require, and you're not binging, obviously. Yeah. And your body, if you eat like a normal human being, without obsessing, with some boundaries, right? Eating to hunger, and you're 220 forever, guess what? You might want to accept it now. Right? Because if you can't accept that, you're basically saying, I'm willing to commit to starving myself to some degree for the rest of my life because I can't accept my natural body.
Yeah.
How many people do you think really know their natural body?
Very few.
I would agree. At least in the diet realm, the thin supremacy realm, they're afraid of what that is. And then they think their natural body is the thin supremacy.
Yeah, that they're just not there.
Yeah, my body is super thin, even though, okay, even though to do that, natural body requires you do intermittent fasting, keto, CrossFit 5 days a week. That doesn't sound like it's natural.
No, it sounds like a nightmare.
Well, you've been there, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, if it was real, it wouldn't require all of that slavery. And it is slavery because your entire life is dedicated to that.
Yeah, and if you're not doing it, then you're thinking about doing it, and then you're beating yourself up why you're not doing it. So
well, that's the anxiety. That's when I said, people go, oh, I'm not dieting. I'm like, oh yeah, you are. You're just not doing it yet. You're living in that mental state that I should be doing it. I should be doing it. I should be doing it. All the while shoving food in your face while you're saying, I'm going to do it later. I'm going to do it later.
Reading diet books while you're like binging.
Before you diet, I got to make sure I get this in. I got to get it in. So you're acting like an animal, which is how you're supposed to be. It's called feast before famine.
Yeah.
It's a natural state. I mean, if you knew, if there was a table full of food and you knew that table, the example I used with another client yesterday was she really likes Cracker Barrel, and on this huge table, the Cracker Barrel food was going to be permanently eliminated, right? We're going to permanently eliminate Cracker Barrel from your life. What do you think she's going to eat until that moment? Cracker Barrel.
Cracker Barrel,
yeah. Does that sound weird to you?
No.
Should we call her a Cracker Barrel addict? Cracker Barrel's food is addictive. That's why she's doing it. Have you ever thought the fact that she thinks she'll never eat Cracker Barrel again might be really promoting this behavior?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the diet industry does not have any awareness of itself because it's not a person. But it is a way of thinking, right? Yeah. It's, I can't have. That's bad. Bad food. Fattening food. Fattening food. Fattening food. Diabetes. You're going to die. Unhealthy. Look at those shame. You're shaming. Shame. 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 Bad. Threaten. Again, remember that first hierarchy of need? How do you think the diet industry has impacted people's baseline psychological well-being with food? Yeah, and how do you think that affects, if you look at fear and you look just at the basic foundation of fear, physiology of fear, which was established over 100 years ago, that's science we have known for a long time. The first thing that happens is your mouth stops salivating, your gut stops watering, which means there's no gastric juices being pumped. Peristalsis stops, which means your stomach stops digesting. The next thing that happens is your glucose levels go up because your body's trying to prepare immediate fuel for your limbs to run from the bear. And that's happening while you're eating a Twinkie.
Yeah.
So you're not digesting it, and then they're going to blame it on the gluten. And your blood sugar skyrockets way higher than it would normally. And they're going to blame that on the Twinkie. Oh, and your pancreas sucks. Let's just blame it on everything. But don't blame it on the fear-mongering that's going on right now. That's legitimate science.
Yeah.
Don't question that part,
No. Yeah. Scary.
Well, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's just, you got to open your mind.
It does. I mean, it's incredible that everyone's bought into it.
Yeah, and they're not questioning it in any way. So I talk about dogma. Dogma is a really important word in this case. Do you recall what dogma is?
Yeah, a kind of set of rules or
beliefs.
Beliefs, yeah.
That are given to you by an authority. So this is really important because you're giving someone else authority over your beliefs because you believe they know better. So this is where the naivety of a child comes in. Okay? And it's unquestionable. You're not to question it because they are an authority. You're not. So that's what dogma is. A set of beliefs or a belief given to you by an authority that you are not to question. You're not to question it.
Yeah.
You just internalize it. So once you internalize that that's true, I believe it, it becomes unconscious. It's a position you now have in your mind. So the moment someone said bread is fattening, what happened to how you look at bread?
You don't want to touch it.
Yeah. And if you eat it, what happens? What do you think? You feel like I'm getting fat.
Yeah.
Yeah. That stems from dogma. That stems from the fact that you believed it. It was given to you by an authority. You didn't question it. Therefore, it is true, and you believe it. And so the body actually responds to that. Because once you believe it, the brain responds as if it is real.
Yeah, and then does accordingly.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it. Yeah. I believed, for me, I don't know why, but 1,200 calories, that's what I should eat. Where do you think I got that?
From the diet industry.
Yeah. Even though there was other science that said, you're an athlete, you should be doing this and that. No, because 1,200 is really what's appropriate.
Yeah.
That's what will make me be thinner. And I tried to eat roughly 1,200 calories and burn 1,200 calories in a day.
So you were exercising constantly?
Oh, yeah. Well, it didn't take much. I put an hour on a Stairmaster at the highest level. Kept my heart rate, had a heart rate monitor on. This was 1995, 1996, 1997. I look good on that Stairmaster. With my arms all locked out and straight. Oh, yeah. And then if I ate anything above that, I binged and puked.
So you were bulimic too?
Totally. Well, that's what the exercise is, too. That's a form of bulimia.
Yeah.
And then when I stopped puking, I started to eat more, but exercise more.
I see.
Oh, and I'm so much better. I'm so much better. Look at it. I'm eating 1,800 calories trying to burn,
Yeah. Oh, God, that's terrible.
And then when I decided I can't do this anymore, I started binging again and purging again. The purging came back once I got rid of exercise, and it was like a nightmare. It's like I can't escape. I can't escape. Can't escape.
Yeah.
And then 19, this was 20 years ago. Literally 20 years ago. My birthday is May 2nd, and I remember I turned 21 on May 2nd, and that was one of the first, it was a very initial meal because I ordered, I was at UMass in Amherst, and my parents' in-laws lived in Ashland, Massachusetts, and they took me to dinner, and I ordered a calzone. And it was one of the first times I put everything I wanted in it, and I relied on hunger to tell me when to stop. And it was delicious, let me tell you. Those Italian calzones out east are on a whole nother level of delicious. Okay?
Yeah.
And so it was prior to my birthday. I don't know exactly the date, but, that's within 2 weeks right now. I swear to God, I'm like right at my 20-year mark right now.
Oh, wow.
So I was preparing to commit suicide right now. 20 years ago.
Yeah, so you had the calzone.
No, that was later. That was after I recovered.
That was after. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
it was.
And you did go through. What happened? You had an awakening.
I think I had an out of body experience.
Out of body.
Yeah. And I remember there was at some point I will write about it or devote an entire YouTube video to this at some point. Yeah. But there were specific aspects in this moment and how it brought me to it, what the experience was, what happened after, and I've never been the same since. But I had decided, I have very clear recollection of what it felt like when I decided I was going to commit suicide. It was the most amazing feeling because for the first time I felt like there was relief. It was sad to me. It felt tragic because I knew this was such a waste. This was such a waste. I'm a good person. My life is, but I can't live anymore. I can't live like this. And I knew I was a complete and total failure. So there was no point to living. I couldn't continue, And so the relief I got from committing suicide was magical.
Once you made the decision.
Oh yeah, I remember I would get excited to go to bed at night because it was another moment I could get relief. And then I'd wake up and hell would start again. It was bad. So as I was preparing to commit suicide was I remember just reconciling. There were a couple times I was like, well, I'll just not exercise. I'm just going to quit what I'm doing. And I couldn't do it. And I became very victim-y about it. Poor me, I'm a martyr. I have to be bad. I can't, all that shit.
Yeah.
And that was when I decided I just am done,
Yeah.
because I had attempted. I remember my dad, I had prior to committing to suicide, I remember talking to my dad and saying, I just don't know if I want to live anymore. Can you imagine your child saying that to you? And it wasn't because I was reaching out for help.
No, you were just telling
I was just talking to my dad.
Yeah.
And he said to me, Robin, you need to let yourself feel. Because I remember I was like, I feel like I'm going to die. I can't do this. I'm so scared, you know, because I'm just telling him symptoms. I was so confused, too, as to what was going on and how to get out. Because you're trying to get out, right? You're trying. It's not like when someone decides to commit suicide, it's not like you haven't thought about. You're obsessed about how do I get out of this, you know? So you have to get to the point where you realize there's no alternative. Anyway, so I was just like trying to process with him, and he said, you know, Robin, you need to allow that feeling to come up and don't do anything about it. And I thought, he's fucking crazy. Because he has no idea how intense this is. He has no idea. It's going to kill me. But he was right. Yeah. Little did I know that my dad was dealing with PTSD from Vietnam. And he was at the same time going through his own like recovery from all sorts of baggage. So he was telling me what he was doing.
I see. So he was going through it.
Yeah, and so I remember thinking he has no idea. So I tried it once, and I was all, Barney, and I remember getting up and working out and realizing at that point, there's no way out. I have no alternative. So the process of getting ready to commit suicide, you know, I think when someone knows they're going to die, they're aware it's happening, and it is the Grim Reaper is calling, right? Death is calling. And that's what happens when someone decides I'm committing suicide. It's death becomes, it's calling. And you do go through the same stages as someone who's dying. I didn't know this until my brother-in-law, Jeff, died. I was pregnant with Susie. Because when this happened to me, I just turned it off. I basically came out completely recovered, totally in weird states of enlightenment. I could feel the trees and weird shit for years. And I just decided this is maybe it's private. Maybe this is something I don't ever need to talk about again. But for whatever reason, I've been given a second chance here, and I'm doing it. And I just put it away because it just wasn't important for me to talk about it to anybody. I didn't tell anybody. So my brother Jeff was dying of brain cancer in 2005. Okay, so this was 5 years later, and I'm reading a pamphlet on dying, and I'm like, oh my God, I've done all this. Holy shit. This is describing what I was doing. It was like a recall in that moment. I'd forgotten about it, you know? Yeah. You know, you go through what I call it reconciling your life. You go into what your life has been about, what you process your history, you process. It's almost like my whole life was going through my head, you know? And it was so tragic. This to me was so sad. And I started to grieve. And in that grieving process, I started to open my mind. And I remember this one time laying on the floor, just sobbing, just crying, wondering what would happen. As I thought about the relationships that were important to me, the ones I really cared about was just my family. And I remember thinking, what would happen? What would happen to them after I die? And that's when I saw my body from above. It was just all of a sudden I started having this perspective. And it was answers to, I would formulate a question and an answer would come up. It was just like all of a sudden, all this knowledge was starting to come to me. Every piece of knowledge I gained in that moment, I am trying to verbally tell you today. Right? Like, you got to accept you're going to be fat forever. I didn't have that language. I didn't have these points of recovery. There was no guidance. I'm now trying to formulate the context of the information that I was aware of in those moments. I don't care about if I gain weight. What if I lose weight? Well, I don't care about that. All of that came to me in this out-of-body experience. It was miraculous. And I remember visualizing myself being... there were parts and points where I recall thinking, well, if I stop everything I'm going to do, I'm going to be 500 pounds. Because that's how hard I'm working. I'm working hard. Again, another thing that became like, wow, an awareness. All this awareness, all these lights were turning on. And I could just see this whole space clearly. I'm literally behaving as if I'm 500 pounds. I'm working harder than someone who's just sitting there breathing at 500 pounds. Yeah. I'm expending more energy just to stay thin than someone who's 500 pounds. Yeah. Which is why when I went into the emotion of what I was going to gain, it was like 500 pounds. It equated up there. It's like, no wonder I'm working this hard. I literally feel like I'm going to be, if I don't do what I'm doing, I'm going to be that big. Yeah. And so, I don't know.
No, thank you for sharing that.
There's so much more to it. I mean, I saw my mom's response to my body. That changed everything because I didn't realize she loved me. I didn't even know what love was. I don't think I'd ever experienced what love was until that point. That moment in time, I had, for the first time, felt what love felt like. So it was amazing because I could feel her pain. I could feel her grief. And she couldn't breathe. She couldn't talk. Every cell in her body was like screaming. It was like she was trying to bring me back by killing herself with her soul. You know, it was intense and I could feel it and it took my breath away in the moment. And it was like, oh my God, it was a moment for the first time in my life. I felt unconditional love. It was intense. It felt like my nervous system was blowing up. It was like I couldn't breathe. And it was a big shift. That shifted a lot of things because I realized she would rather me alive in any state. Like I could be a porn star. She wouldn't care. I mean, she'd care, but if she knew the alternative, she would rather, you know? And so the shame and guilt I carried about the religious shit that I carried because of her, she was very much, I don't want to blame it on her, but she raised me in a tiny box of religion.
I see, so that's
that was her love. And she had no idea that the shame I carried was because I had sex before marriage. That's why I felt like a failure. I was literally going to commit suicide because the alternative was a piece of shit. I'm a piece of shit, you know?
Yeah.
It's just,
wow.
I know. I almost committed suicide over I had sex before marriage and I sucked. I was drinking alcohol. Oh my God, I should die.
Oh, I see. So, and your dad sounds like he was a little more.
Well, yeah, there was some, you know, they were loving. I love my dad. My mom has recently passed away of brain cancer, but I love my parents. And I actually in that moment saw clearly, oh, they just have lost. They don't know. They don't even know they love me that much. They don't even know this exists either. Yeah. It would take me committing suicide for my mother to be aware of that type of love, that type of pain. Yeah. She doesn't even know exists. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I became aware of that in that out-of-body experience. And so I was like, oh, it's really sweet that she raised me that way. Oh, so I forgave it. It was very oh yeah, everything was forgiven. At that point it was like, and then I realized, oh, the only reason I am ashamed is because I believe that dogma. Yeah. I wouldn't feel so bad if I didn't believe that. And do I really believe that? Do I really believe that? No, I'm a good person. So you see how it changed? My mind just started shifting. Yeah. Well, the lights started turning on all over, and the clarity and the spatial awareness was like intense. And I just realized I exist and I deserve to exist in any form. You know, anyway, so it was magical, very important. Well, you do too. You just have to get over your body and decide, well, why does it matter what my body looks like? If it's giving me consciousness and I'm witnessing life real time, why am I sitting here wasting on the idea that I should be in a different body? Yeah. Why isn't this one good enough? Yeah. What does it need really? What do you really need? Yeah. Nothing. What do you need? It's alive. What else do you need? I mean, you could be in a wheelchair. That's fine too, right? I mean, what is that taken away from you? Nothing.
Yeah.
It's like an infinite space of potential. Sure, there's no potential of walking. Why do you have to walk?
Yeah.
What's walking? What really? You know, like I have a friend whose dog had its leg amputated, got in a car wreck, and had to amputate its leg. Do you understand how that dog is acting right now with that leg? It doesn't give a shit.
No, he's just like working with legs.
You got it. Like, I just want to go out and smell. Why do I need to have 4 legs to do this? I'm waddling. My left arm hurts really bad for some reason. I'm sore as heck because all the weight's on one side on the front. But you know what? Do they give a shit? No. Because they are existing in their life with the reality of what they're experiencing. As it is. It's good enough. It's good enough. Constantly good enough for them. They're way more evolved.
Yeah, for sure.
I know. So our goal is to get you there. We want you to be a dog.
Yeah.
Do you think a dog really cares if it's fat? Does it really?
No.
No, they just want to sniff around and piss. They want to piss around, sniff, smell some butts, and wiggle their tail.
Oh, that's a good analogy. Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome. Okay.
So, where from here then, Robin? Should I get some sessions with you? What do you suggest as far as...
Yeah. I mean, if you're ready to go, let's do it.